Hey, I'm Chris Cooper, and one reason I love entrepreneurship is that it's a meritocracy. You succeed or you fail based on what you know and what you apply and what you actually do. So it's not just enough to grind and grind and grind and hustle and hustle and hustle. You have to be working hard on the right things. And as your business grows, those right things change. When you're a solo practitioner working as a trainer in somebody else's gym, being a great trainer is your job. When you open up a gym, though, your job changes. It's not just enough to be a great trainer. You have to actually be a good CEO of your business. And thinking of yourself as a CEO will actually help you grow that business because when you're the CEO, growth is your job. So if you haven't yet, please go to gymownersunited.com to talk about this video, to talk about anything gym related with other gym owners worldwide. There's 6,000 gym owners in there yet. We cut out the critics. We cut out the people that'll call you names and make fun of you. They're all gone. This is a supportive, very high level, very high quality group, and it's free. My mentors and I jump in there about once a day to answer questions, but the conversation is always awesome. So just go visit gymownersunited.com if you want to talk about this process. Today, I want to give you a way to audit how you're doing as a CEO by judging your habits as a CEO. And so we're going to look at how are you actually spending your time? One of the first lessons that I learned when I was a personal trainer is if you're not spending 40 hours a week training, then you need to spend the rest of the hours up to 40 growing your business. And that means getting new clients. Sometimes we like to hide from that, right? We work on operations and we build stuff, new products, new services, and we make really fancy pricing binders. And those are valuable. But at some point, you've actually got to go out there and do the things that grow your business. And it doesn't matter if you're working on a gym that's making less than $5,000 a month, or you're working on a giant company like mine that spans the entire globe. You have to spend time growing your business. That's your job and your duty as a CEO. So here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to audit your time spent working in your gym. Now, when I was first running my gym and kind of struggling, so this was 3 years in, it was around 2008. If I looked at how I was spending my time, it painted this really clear picture. So I've broken this chart up into measuring delivery hours. So how much time are you spending actually delivering your service yourself, coaching, into sales hours, which is how much time are you spending on sales and marketing or growth of the company, and admin hours, which is like everything else. You're billing, you're responding to emails, etc. Tasks like lead nurture should fall into sales hours, okay? But here's where we get trapped. So if I looked at back when I was struggling as a gym owner, I was spending almost all of my time in delivery. So for example, I would come in on Monday morning. I would start by coaching the 6 a.m. class. Then I would have a 7 a.m. class. Then I'd have a personal training client, between 9 and 10. And then I would coach the noon group. So we're already at 4, right? And then I would have like a 4:30 kids group. And then I would have a 6 o'clock CrossFit group, and then I'd have a 7 o'clock CrossFit group. So on Monday, I would have about 6 hours in delivery. If I had a no sweat intro in there, that would be like my one sales hour for the day. But that only happened maybe once a week back then. And it was just completely luck when it happened. I was doing nothing to create those opportunities to meet people and change their lives. All I was doing was waiting for them to figure out who I was, decide that I was going to solve their problem, and then show up. So if I had one NSI, that was kind of lucky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in on Tuesday. And then my admin hours would be spent responding to email. Okay. They would be spent like doing billing once a month. They would honestly be wasted a lot of the time. I would go like this. I'd look at my bank account. I'd be tired. I'd be having an espresso just to stay engaged and awake. I'd be sitting behind the front desk, greeting people, maybe not really doing anything. And I might be cleaning up a little bit. So every single day, though, I'd have like at least 2 or 3 of these hours. Now, keep in mind, I was working a very long day. Where did the rest of the hours go? I would work out. That would take an hour and a half. And then I would just waste most of the other time. I can't even account for where it went because I was just unfocused. So then, these delivery hours would go at least 5 days a week. And honestly, most Saturdays, I would probably do about 5 hours of personal training one-on-one with clients. For a little while, I was coming in on Sundays for 4 hours too. That was bananas. But we're talking about my gym at its worst. And so I want to give you the full snapshot. I would not be doing very much with sales, but as I said, like on a good week, I might have an NSI. And at that time I was running free trial classes on Saturday. So I'm going to count that, even though that was not a sales and marketing exercise because it didn't result in signing anybody up. I would just let people come in, try out the group, coach them a little bit, and then that would be it. I'd go sit behind the front desk and wait for them to come over waving their credit card at me. And that never happened, right? So I am going to count that. Admin hours, I would say, would probably be about the same, 2 a day. There'd be workouts, and Saturday, I'd have 0 there. On Sunday, if I were in there, I might coach like 1 class, but mostly it was open gym. So I'd have some admin time there. So if we look at like how my box was growing, what we would see is that 70% of the time I was coaching, and admin, sitting behind the desk, not being very effective, stressing about my bank account, hitting refresh on my credit card statement. That was 25% of my time. The rest of the time was mostly just spent like working out and tidying up. And my sales hours were 5%. And that was completely like just waiting for people to come in and wave their credit card under my nose, right? So here's what happened though. As I found a mentor and I started to get some traction. And so at first I did not have any money. The check that I wrote for $500 to the mentor should have bounced. And so instead, what I had to do was say, like, how am I going to grow my business? And I was learning this stuff from him, and I was getting frustrated because I just didn't have like time to apply it. And so I wasn't changing anything. And I would say, like, I'm getting no result from this mentorship, when reality is I was still spending my time the exact same way. And so what I had to do was make myself a rule that was every day, do one thing to grow your business before you do anything else. And so instead of changing my hours, I actually had to add more hours. And so now what I did was I came in half an hour earlier every single day. I would get up at 4 instead of 4:30. I'd get to the gym. I'd have my hoodie up. I wouldn't even turn the lights on. And I would do one thing to grow my business. And so I would add a sales hour, okay, or even a half hour every single day. Every single day that I was at the gym, at least. And so now you can see what's happened here. I've gone from 5% of my time being spent on sales to almost 12%, right? I've doubled my sales effort, doubled my marketing effort. What did I do in those days? I called people who had canceled their memberships. I set up a newsletter. Email marketing was super powerful back then. I would like write in my blog, anything that I could think of. If I couldn't think of something that would result in a client that day, I would write a blog post. If I couldn't think of something that would result in some people coming in to do my free trial that week, I would write an email. Whatever, I would spend a half an hour extra per day working on that stuff. Then here's what happened next. I started to get a little bit more traction. I started to get better retention rates. I started to get people coming in and signing up more. So my sales hours actually went up again because I had more NSIs. So I kept going. Here we go. So now these hours turned into 1.5 because I'd have a no sweat intro and I would be doing my marketing too. Notice that my total hours per week are still crazy insane. And I was getting burnt out, but I was making more revenue. And so I could afford to replace myself in lower value roles. So the first place I would replace myself is as a cleaner. And so what would happen is this: I would cut off an hour every night where the cleaner would be working on something like mopping the floor or whatever from 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock. And during that time, most of the time I wouldn't go home. I would replace that with my marketing time, but that meant I didn't have to get there at 4:30 in the morning. So now I started cutting back my hours. I was still getting more no sweat intros. I guess I was still probably working on Sundays at that point. But my total hours went down because now I had somebody else doing this lower value role and I could focus more time on sales and marketing. Soon I stopped working on Sundays. And guess what happened? I got a little bit more creative. So when I would come into work, I would be able to spend at least an hour. on sales and marketing. And so as I learned that this was becoming a priority, I would actually hire somebody else to run my 6 a.m. classes. She was awesome. She was bubbly. Maybe she wasn't the fitness expert that I was, but what that did was freed me up for another hour. And so these 5 days a week, she would come in and I would be there, but I wouldn't be there right before 6. I could sleep in a half an hour earlier and I would still use that other half an hour to work on growing my business. So now you can see this time is going up. I didn't have to work on it on Saturday. As soon as my personal training was done, I was out of there. My gym was making more money. And you can see my total hours are actually coming down, but the time that I spent in the CEO job actually building my business is going up proportionally. And as I figured that out, what started to happen was the company started to grow. And so now I said, okay, look, I'm still working a lot. Okay, so it looks like on this, I've got 45 hours total, but I'm still like working out. I'm still working these long days. How can I afford to have somebody else take my Saturday hours? These are all personal training hours, and I could take Saturdays off, but I need to figure out how to make that revenue. So first, now things are getting more complex. I have to hand off those clients to another trainer. And we had a model for that. It worked pretty well. We didn't lose that revenue, but of course I was paying somebody else. But now I knew that I had to dig in a little bit more during the weekday and prioritize more of my time in CEO time. So to remove these 5 hours, what I actually had to do was level up during the week. I had to spend less time in delivery or less time in admin and more time on sales and marketing. Well, it's cheaper to pay somebody to do admin stuff than it is to find and train and hire and pay a great coach. So what I did was I took these hours to zero. I hired my bookkeeper to do my billing for me. And I would have another coach checking emails in the morning and only forwarding the important stuff. And then I started learning about social media. Now, keep in mind, this is probably 2011 by this point. This took some time because I had to figure out each step. I had a mentor that I would meet with once a month, and we were making gradual progress as I learned this, and I was sharing it on don'tbuyads.com. But when people come into our ramp up program, they take a lot of these steps in like 12 weeks. It doesn't take them 4 years. So now what's happening is that a far greater proportion of their time is spent in the CEO chair and less on delivery. Now, we actually have a lot of people who say, I want a coach. And so we say, let's do your perfect day exercise. How much time do you want to spend coaching? And they'll say, oh, I don't know, 3 classes a day. There's other ways to answer this question. But for me, 5 classes a day was still a lot. And so my next step was to say, look, I'm only really good for like 3 hours a day. After that, my performance as a coach begins to suffer. The fourth client of the day is not getting the same attention and energy that the first client is, but 3 is pretty good. So I stopped working on Sundays. I got disciplined about that. I cut these hours back. And now what you'll see is that my actual work hours are about 25 per week. And I had to ask myself, okay, at 25 hours a week, I'm still working out 5-6 hours a week. So that puts me at the gym for about 31 hours a week. And I'm actually there like 40. So what am I doing with the rest of my time? And what I started doing was getting really focused with that time and spending just as much time building the business as I was delivering. So here's what you got now. You start off by adding hours to your day to work on your business. As you get some momentum, you replace yourself in a low value role and use that time to grow your business. And as you gain even more momentum, you start to ask yourself, like, where is it easiest to buy more time to work on CEO stuff? Is it an admin role or is it like a client facing role? Then you say, now what's my perfect day? When am I most effective as a coach? For me, that's about 3 hours a day. And, what do I need to do to be able to afford to coach 3 hours a day to give my clients the best service? That is to increase my sales and marketing hours. And so by about 2012, Catalyst was really rolling. I was coaching about 3 hours a day, mostly group classes, because that's what I was passionate about. I was getting out of personal training completely because I was just exhausted. I'd already been a personal trainer for like close to 20 years at that point, but I was making sure that I spent 3 hours a day working on growing my company. That was not easy, especially when we had a small gym with just a front desk. And so what I found was that I was actually better off to go home on those days and work the full day on sales and marketing because I wouldn't be interrupted. And so Tuesday, Thursdays, that's what I did. And then Saturdays, I would actually add some time working from home. So what you found is that over time, as I learn more about growing my company and being a CEO and hiring staff and doing sales and doing marketing, is that I preferentially went that direction. That might not be your direction. You might prefer to coach 70% of the time and work on the CEO stuff 30%. That's still going to get you way more momentum than you're probably getting now. But this is a really simple exercise that you can do to audit your time. I would say do it every month when you're first starting out. As your business is growing and getting more sustainable, you can definitely do it like once every quarter. Even if you're at the tinker level and you have multiple businesses, even if you've got a $10 million a year business, you really want to be thinking about this because it is way too easy for founders like me and you to get sucked into product development. And then what happens is like we're not actually delivering anymore. We're spending all of our time in meetings and thinking about products, okay, stuff like that. And so we can take back delivery. What happens again is we get really busy without actually growing our company. And so as this starts to go down, you start to see like the company isn't growing as fast. Whenever you open a business, you are by default the CEO. The CEO's job is to grow the business. That is your duty. It's your duty to yourself, to your family, to your staff who are counting on you to make a living, and also to your clients, because the more successful that you are, the better experience they can have, the faster they can get to their results, and the longer they will stay with you and change their lives. Hope it helps. You can download this video. I'll post a link to download it below. And visit gymownersunited.com if you want to ask questions about this or the process that we call the value ladder to mentor you through all of these changes. It's not going to take you 5 years like it took me. You can do it in months.